Have you told yourself that you'll spend less during retirement? You're not alone. Coming up on the Wheelhouse Retirement Show, we'll explore common myths of retirement planning, and Rishi gives us a closer look at the Wheelhouse strategy to help you have a long-lasting retirement. Plus, the planning tip of the week explores how much you can safely withdraw from your retirement accounts. And later, you'll hear Rishi and Anthony identify the speed bumps you may encounter during retirement. The Wheelhouse Retirement Show starts right now.
Retirement is more than a destination. It's a journey that starts with a dream. A vision for the way you want to live, recharge, and give back. To get there, you need a plan to make your retirement dreams come true. Now in its second season, the Wheelhouse Retirement Show provides you with the essential strategies needed to plan your ideal retirement. From income planning and wealth management, to strategies for taxes, long-term care, and leaving a legacy, Rishi Ghosh, Anthony Stryker, and the team at Wheelhouse Advisory Group provide modern solutions and comprehensive plans for your journey to and through retirement. This is the Wheelhouse Retirement Show.
Welcome into the Wheelhouse Retirement Show. I'm Amy Sharp. Joining me today is Rishi Ghosh and Anthony Stryker with Wheelhouse Advisory Group. Great to be back with you guys.
Happy to be here.
Excited to be here again.
Are you, Anthony? Because we've got some fun stuff to talk about right off the top. Before we even get into this, we have to talk about a somewhat recent trip that you took to New Orleans. Is it New Orleans?
No, they do not say New Orleans down in New Orleans.
How do they say? Okay, there you go.
New Orleans. Every once in a while you get a New Orleans in there. However, yeah, this is a fairly new suit. It's the suit I got married in down in New Orleans, and got this piece of hardware here on my finger. And we had a great time. It was from Thursday to Sunday. It was a destination wedding for my family and friends here in St. Louis, but Laurel's family, Laurel, my beautiful bride up on the screen here, her family's from down there. So we had a great time. I think Rishi had a pretty good time too. He stood up next to me.
We promised we wouldn't go into that part of it.
Yeah, you're right. But no, it was great. We had an afternoon ceremony. We rode a trolley around all afternoon and took some great pictures and had a really nice reception. So thanks for asking. It was great.
Fantastic. Congratulations to you both. And now you're both married and you're well under
Believe it or not, right?
taken care of. Well taken care of. Mm-hmm. All right, let's get into the show today. We want to talk about some of the myths of retirement planning, and there are several of them. So first of all, I guess I want to ask you, Rishi, what brought you to this point that you wanted to really kind of get these out there?
So as you know, Amy, Wheelhouse Advisory Group has really been built on taking people from the accumulation phase of life into the distribution phase. And we always believe that transition needs to start happening about 5 years prior to retirement, because there are a lot of things that can happen in that 5-year time window leading into retirement, whether it be stock market crashes or stock market soaring, whether it be tax increases or healthcare changes. But a lot can happen in those first 5 years leading up to retirement that can really have an impact on your retirement and successful retirement that you're looking to have. What we have found is that the retirement landscaping has changed quite a bit over the last 30 years. You know, even 10 years ago from when I started in the business of really helping people move into this next phase of life. And understanding some of those changes, but more importantly, if you've built your retirement plan based on some of, as we call them, these myths, it may be time to sit down, talk with somebody, and see if we can rectify some of these potential issues in your portfolio.
All right, so let's get started here. We've got the first two myths, and they kind of go hand in hand because they deal with the thoughts that we have as we reference retirement.
That's right, and these are really pre-retirement questions that we might ask ourselves. And our first myth here is that I will spend less during retirement than I do during my working years. And number two is I don't need to worry about retirement planning until right before I do retire. And let's start with the first myth here. If you use Google or DuckDuckGo or Ask Jeeves, whatever you're searching on your computer, and you talk about how much should I spend in retirement, you might find an article like this, and it says you expect to spend 55 to 80% of your current income during retirement. And just as total retirement planners, when we think about the clients that we've seen, the families we've helped retire, and we have them visualize what is our retirement going to look like. And we want them to not live on pins and needles, but a lot of our clients aren't extravagant, but they've got more time. They've got time to see the grandkids, time to plan these trips that they've been working so hard for so many years to be able to live out the retirement that they've dreamed of. And we're helping them with that goal. So we feel a little bit like 55 to 80% might be kind of on the lower end of that spectrum of what you might want to plan for to truly be a conservative total retirement plan. Number two, that myth of I don't need to worry about planning for retirement until right before retirement. Again, with us being total fiduciaries, there's a lot to learn for a family about retirement planning before you are actually retired, in our opinion. There's things to learn about investments and new types of investments you might want to use in retirement, tax planning, estate planning, income planning, healthcare planning. There's a lot of different things. So if you are just 6 months prior to that final date, that light at the end of the tunnel, and you just start learning about all this, it can be kind of overwhelming. So, those are the first two myths when it comes to pre-retirement here.
Okay, time for you to take your turn, Rishi. These next two, they talk about taxes, and we know you've got some information on this.
Right. So myth number 3, as we call it, is tax planning and filing of my taxes are the same thing. And number 4, I will be in a lower tax bracket during retirement than I am during my working years. So as most of our long-term viewers know, we are big believers in proactive strategic tax planning here at the firm. And there's a big difference between gathering all this information, whether you put it into TurboTax, Tax Act, H&R Block, or take it to your CPA, who then files your taxes for you, signs it, sends it off, and tells you whether you get a return or you have to pay a few bucks. There's a huge difference between strategic planning and filing. Strategic planning is what you want to do as you get closer to retirement. Of how do I change my paper net worth to my real net worth? How do I convert money proactively? And what's going to be the best overall plan and strategic plan to save me and my family money on taxes over the long run? And then going hand in hand with that, going with what Anthony mentioned earlier, that I will spend less in retirement, I will tell you, for our families, if they're used to spending $10,000 a month in pre-retirement, they're going to want $10,000 a month in retirement, not 55 to 80% of that. They might actually want $11,000 or $12,000 a month because, as Anthony mentioned, this is the time to now start snowbirding in Florida, Arizona, Texas, or traveling with the grandkids, or taking that month-long vacation to the Gulf Shores. You're going to spend more, you're going to do more. So a lot of people think that, I'm somehow going to be in a lower tax bracket. But if you're used to living off of $10,000 a month in pre-retirement and you need $10,000 a month in retirement, it's very difficult to see how your tax return is somehow going to be lower in retirement. So Anthony had the financial planning team put together just a basic situation of what we'd see. During their working years, Fred and Linda have a combined income of about $130,000, which puts their taxable income after the standard deduction at $104,000 and puts them in a marginal tax bracket of 22%. We take this exact same family and put them into retirement between Social Security's, pensions, and IRA withdrawals. They're a little bit lower at $111,000 of adjusted gross income, but their taxable income's $85,100, which puts them the 22% tax bracket. So that old school myth of, I'm going to be in a lower tax bracket in retirement, we personally don't believe it's going to happen from a mathematical standpoint.
Okay, great start to talking about myths in retirement. We've got more coming up. Important information as always. And coming up next, we'll discover more myths in this planning process of retirement. Plus, Rishi explains how to find a safe withdrawal rate in this week's planning tip of the week. And what does the Wheelhouse process look like? We'll dive into that later in the Wheelhouse Retirement Show as it continues next.
You have a club for every scenario. A driver for the long holes. Wedges to get you over the hazards. And a putter for when you need a touch of finesse. What about your retirement? Will you have enough to play the back nine? Call to set your phone visit today and let's find out. Get a second set of eyes on your retirement plan.
Welcome back to the Wheelhouse Retirement Show. We're back with Rishi Ghosh and Anthony Stryker with Wheelhouse Advisory Group, and we're talking about some of the biggest myths when it comes to retirement. There are several out there, so let's just start by recapping in case anyone has forgotten where we started with this conversation.
So number 1 has to do with income and expenses. I will spend less money in retirement than my working years, and I don't need to worry about planning for retirement until right before retirement. As Anthony had mentioned, most of our clients don't spend less money, and most of them want to start planning for retirement at least 5 years before retirement. And then number 3, from a tax planning standpoint, tax planning, tax filing, in my opinion, they are truly not the same thing. And then also, a lot of people believe they're going to be in a lower tax bracket in retirement. Well, if you're not planning on depreciating your lifestyle into the retirement years, you're not going to be in a lower tax bracket. So strategic tax planning may make sense even in pre-retirement instead of waiting for retirement.
sometimes myths lead to reality checks, and that's okay when it comes to retirement planning, I imagine. All right, let's go with the next two. We've got several more to get through.
We've got a few, and so our fifth myth of the day here is that I can count the equity in my house as part of my retirement assets. So when we run an analysis for a client, we've got their IRAs, their 401ks, their Roth IRAs, all of their retirement accounts, and then sometimes they might want us to add. I've got $200,000 of equity in my house, and sometimes they have a plan of I'll retire, I'm happy with my current house, but someday I'm going to downsize. And when I do downsize, it's going to be half the square footage, and it's going to be a one floor, and I'll probably be able to get the net after that sale. I'll be able to take that $100,000 or $200,000 and add it to my retirement assets. This happens sometimes. This can happen. However, I will tell you that home builders and the real estate market is smart. They know the population is aging, and we have seen a lot of situations where that money is just not there and readily spendable, or not liquid, as we say there yet. So we really don't count any assets into the overall retirement plan until they are there and spendable. And getting money out of the house can sometimes be more difficult than one might expect.
Yeah, that house equity myth, that's a very real one. I've heard that conversation from more than one close to retirement type person, for sure. All right, so we have a couple more.
Yes.
Go ahead, Rishi.
So number 6, number 7 here. My cost of living adjustment on Social Security will cover my increased expenses. And number 7, I will spend less on healthcare in retirement than my working years. So let's start with number 6 here. So a lot of people know that once you collect Social Security based on the government's cost of living adjustment, they will increase your Social Security. But the reason why we call this a myth, while that cost of living adjustment on your Social Security may help you minuscule amounts to help keep up with the standard of living, what we see with a lot of our clients is their Medicare premiums actually increase at a much higher rate than their cost of living on their Social Security payment. And we pulled out a few years here just to kind of show people that, if you look at 2020, the cost of living adjustment on Social Security was 1.1%, but Medicare premium increases actually went up 6.7%. From 2021 to 2022, cost of living adjustment on Social Security was 5.9%, but Medicare premiums actually went up 14.5% during that time frame. So the reason why we bring this up is a lot of our clients have very, very good pensions, also have good Social Securities, but they're counting on Social Security to actually help them increase their cost of living. And we tend to see with our clients that if you're going to solely rely on Social Security to help you keep your standard of living the same, you're probably not going to be as successful over the long run as you potentially can be if you put some assets to work to help you keep up with inflation. So we just like to tell people that not always does your standard of living stay the same just focusing on Social Security. And then number 7, the healthcare situation. Now, we've talked about this before, but healthcare is generally the number one reason why we tell people below 65 years old they should not or cannot retire successfully because of the cost. But I will also tell you, a lot of our clients work at corporations or small businesses where the owners may pay for a large chunk of their health insurance or may cover a large chunk of that. And so they're not really paying that much into health insurance during their working years. But now when they add on Medicare into that, when they add on supplements onto that, now when they add out-of-pocket deductibles and maximums onto that, a lot of people end up spending equal amounts on healthcare, if not potentially higher in some years as well. So if you're planning on spending less in healthcare and retirement, that's fantastic if it works out, but it generally doesn't always work perfectly in everyone's situation.
Just a little bit to think about in terms of myths here. Have we covered everything, or do we have still one more to go here?
We've got one more
Okay,
if we have
all
time
right.
for us.
Okay.
So our last myth here is that I'm getting ready to retire and I'm almost there. I need to be cautious and safe with all of my retirement savings. The reason that this is a myth is as you do get closer to retirement and you're getting ready to turn your nest egg into a paycheck, you're going to be having no income from work, so you're getting ready to spend this money. And there can be a common thought that I really need to make sure all of this is safe and need to be cautious with it all. Investing and retirement, investing in particular, in the choices of your investments is all about the time horizon. So there are some funds in your portfolio that you are going to need to keep safe because you're going to spend them in the first 5, 10, 15 years of retirement. However, some of those dollars in your portfolio, if you're planning on a 30 or knock on wood 40-year retirement, right? Those have a time horizon of much longer, meaning they can be in potentially riskier investments to help the overall portfolio keep up with inflation and make sure that throughout retirement you're still maintaining your lifestyle, and if a healthcare situation comes up, that you've grown a certain amount of assets to be able to be safe.
All right, great insights as always. Thank you, gentlemen. Coming up after the break, Rishi and Anthony will walk us through calculating your withdrawal rate. That's next in our planning tip of the week. Plus, we explore the difference between having products versus having a financial plan. Stay with us.
You may be surprised to learn that your taxes could go up in retirement. That's right, you could be paying even more taxes in retirement. With the threat of possible tax hikes looming, your retirement lifestyle could be in jeopardy unless you take action. Now's the time to take advantage of proactive tax planning strategies to keep even more of your hard-earned dollars and give less to Uncle Sam. Find out by scheduling your complimentary 30-minute strategic planning call now. You've worked too hard to overpay taxes in retirement. Schedule your complimentary call today. Hi, I'm Rishi Ghosh, and we're back with the planning tip of the week. You've worked hard to save for retirement, and now you're ready to turn your savings into an income stream. But how much can you afford to withdraw from your savings and spend? If you spend too much, you risk being left with a shortfall later in retirement, but if you spend too little, you may not live the retirement you envisioned. One of the biggest numbers we try to help prospective clients identify as they go through the onboarding process here at Wheelhouse is how much money will they need month to month in retirement. When we ask for this number, we ask clients to envision their ideal retirement, whether it's a daily round of golf, long weekends at the lake, or a month snowbirding in Florida for winter. It's important to identify how much each family will need to pay their bills and live their ideal retirement day to day. This spending number is what we consider the second most important number in retirement planning. We tell our clients and prospective clients that the most important number in all of retirement planning is withdrawal rate. Withdrawal rate is the percentage of how much you will be spending from your portfolio as an aggregate each year. It's how we help investors identify if they are in a good position to retire or stay retired successfully. One frequently used rule of thumb for retirement spending is known as the 4% rule. It's relatively simple. You add up all of your investments and withdraw 4% of that total during your first retirement year. In subsequent years, you will then adjust the dollar amount you withdraw to account for inflation. By following this formula, you should have a very high probability of not outliving your money during a 30-year retirement according to the rule. For example, let's say your portfolio at retirement totals $1 million. You would withdraw $40,000 in your first year of retirement. If the cost of living rises 2%, you would give yourself a 2% raise the following year, withdrawing $40,800, and so on for the next 30 years. The 4% rule assumes you withdraw the same amount from your portfolio every year adjusted for inflation. While the 4% is a reasonable place to start, it doesn't fit every investor's situation. A few caveats. It's a rigid rule. The 4% rule assumes you increase your spending every year by the rate of inflation. It applies to a specific portfolio composition. The rule applies to a hypothetical portfolio invested 50% in stocks and 50% in bonds. Your actual portfolio composition may differ, and you may change your investments over time during retirement. So if you're in a much more aggressive portfolio, depending on performance, you may have to adjust your withdrawal rate. It doesn't include taxes. The rule guides how much to withdraw from the portfolio each year and assumes that taxes are an expense that you pay out of the money withdrawn. If you withdraw $40,000 and have $5,000 in taxes at year end, that's paid from the $40,000 withdrawn. So you are not bringing home the full $40,000 in this example. You are bringing home $35,000 net of taxes. The biggest mistake you can make with the 4% rule is thinking you will have to follow it to the letter. There will be years where, as we say it, life happens and there is a higher expense. These can either be due to fun things like family vacations or building a dream home, or needed lump sum expenses such as replacing a car or a roof on the house. The 4% rule should be used as a starting point and a basic guideline to help you save for retirement and move into the stage of life confidently. If you want $40,000 from your portfolio in the first year of a 30-year retirement, increasing annually with inflation with high confidence your savings will last, using the 4% rule will require you to have $1 million in retirement. The transition from saving to spending from your portfolio can be difficult from a financial and mental perspective. There will never be a single right answer on how much you should withdraw from your portfolio in retirement. What's important is to have a plan and a general guideline for spending and then monitor and adjust based on circumstances. The goal, after all, isn't to worry about complicated calculations about spending. The goal is to enjoy your retirement. If you don't know your withdrawal rate or how you would like assistance in figuring this out into your retirement plan, our team of wealth managers would be happy to help. That's the planning tip of the week. I'm Rishi Ghosh, and we'll be right back.
Have you thought about your plan for long-term care? Do you need a policy to pay for it, or can you self-insure? If you have questions about long-term care planning and all the options available to you, you're not alone. I'm Lauren Ferraro, and my team at Wheelhouse Advisory Group can help you create a plan to meet your personal needs and protect your hard-earned assets. If you are confused or concerned about planning for long-term care, call us today to learn how to steer your future in the right direction.
Welcome back to the Wheelhouse Retirement Show with Rishi Ghosh and Anthony Stryker. We've gone through 8 common myths of retirement planning today. So let's take it back and just kind of bring it together and tell us what our takeaway should be.
I think the big takeaway is if any of these myths have been terms or statements that you have followed for years and planned around, it may be a new retirement landscape to start thinking about how to alleviate or fix these things before you move into retirement, or if you're already in retirement, how to make sure we make those changes proactively prior to something potentially ruining your retirement.
Absolutely. Okay, we've talked about these myths. It's only natural that we would segue into the Wheelhouse process, because this, of course, is what you work with your clients on every single day.
That's correct. And all these myths we talked about, they are factors of someone's retirement plan. And that's all we focus on, is that true retirement planning and all of these factors that might affect someone's plan. And what we start with is somebody call our office and they have what we call a get to know you meeting. This is a 45 minute to an hour and a half, depending on the depth of the meeting and the questions, and they bring in what we call our fact finder, and they'll meet with Rishi or myself, or if they're lucky, both of us, and we'll go over their situations. What we're really trying to uncover in that meeting is, what is retirement going to look like to you? If you're not retired yet, and if you are retired, are things on the right track? Are things feeling good? Number 2, what is most important to you? Sometimes it's most important to take those trips to see the grandkids. Sometimes it's most important to leave a legacy of a certain amount to either a charity or to the rest of your family after you pass. So between meetings 1 and 2, we take that story and we take the numbers and we put the numbers into our retirement analyzer. We talked about the retirement analyzer at length on the show, but that's really the blueprint to someone's retirement plan. It shows the income, the assets, the expenses on someone's plan, and it gives us an output. How long will money last? What happens if inflation is high? What happens if the stock market crashes with your current portfolio? At meeting number 3, what we do is we really finalize that retirement analyzer. If someone's going to go down the Wheelhouse path, then what will our plan look like from a general perspective, and what types of investments might we talk about? And that's where we get into some of the general investment ideas through our 4-bucket strategy. Between meeting 3 and 4 is really where our teams and the relationship begins between Wheelhouse and a family who's going to go down the Wheelhouse path. And we start writing up what's very rare in our industry. It's our retirement navigator, and it's a true written plan that goes over all of our proposals for someone's plan, someone's tax plan, investment plan, estate plan. And then between the 4th and the 5th meeting, we actually go ahead and, after we have that conversation, execute that plan and make sure that a client understands the fees that are involved and why each of their parts of the plan are working towards their goals.
There are people out there that think they have a complete plan, but tell us what that really means and how we know whether that is the case.
In our opinion, here at Wheelhouse, we believe that means 2 things. Number 1 is actually having that plan written out. If you are with a retirement advisor and you don't know your plan because it's not written out for you and updated at least once a year, then we think that there might be some shakiness with that plan potentially. It needs to be written out, in our opinion, in layman's terms too, so it's understood by anyone that's reading it there. And then that plan really covers our 5 speed bumps of retirement. These are speed bumps. These are all risks that cover kind of what those myths we're talking about: stock market volatility, inflation, longevity, how long is my money going to last, Taxes is a big one, obviously, and long-term care. These are all things that those myths talked about, but it's all something that your retirement plan needs to be focused around, not just the investments.
Some great information, and I know you want to leave our viewers with some final thoughts on this, because it's a big deal to consider all the myths that are out there and making sure you know.
Right. Those 5 speed ones that Anthony just mentioned really cover 3 basic planning pillars: investment advice, tax planning advice, estate planning advice. Those 5 speed ones we've been talking about for years on the show, that, you know, if you plan for those things, you have a very, very high probability by proactively taking care of them before they potentially ruin your retirement. You have a much higher probability of success throughout retirement. But that being said, when we always ask people if they have a complete plan, we ask them to have 2 questions. Ask themselves 2 questions. Does your current plan cover the obstacles that would prevent you from reaching your ideal retirement? So as Anthony mentioned, the very first meeting, what is your ideal retirement? What is your goal? What are you looking to get out of this next phase of your life? So does your current plan cover the obstacles, or what could potentially keep you from getting to that successful retirement? And then number 2, do the products or investments in your plan address the concerns that are most important to you in your retirement years? Meaning, as Anthony mentioned, if leaving money to the next generation or a charity is very important to you, do you have a mathematical process and a mathematical plan to make sure that you can get to that goal? If your goal is, hey, Rishi, it's great to leave money to the next generation, but I would ideally like to see my money enjoyed while I'm alive, but I want to make sure that I don't spend too much in the first 5 to 10 years of retirement, that I'm worried about the years 11 through 20, right? What is our goal? How do we break out your money into, let's say, different buckets, so we can say this is our spending money, this is our one-off money, this is our long-term care money? You know, what exactly and how do we plan to make this portfolio as efficient as possible? I will tell you from experience, Anthony and I have seen this all the time, where people move into retirement with the exact same plan they had during the accumulation phase of life. And, you know, for the last 10 plus years, you know, the market's done incredibly well. It's had volatility along the way, but it's done incredibly well. But what we tend to see is our clients, as they get closer and closer to retirement or into retirement, their stomach for the downside of the market, or their stomach for higher taxes, isn't quite as great as it used to be during the accumulation phase of life. So they just want to make sure they have this rock solid plan through their investments, through their strategies, but more importantly, an overall complete plan to help them reach their ideal retirement.
They understand as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Once again, congratulations to you and Laurel, too.
Thank you so much.
All right. Very good. Great, important insights to keep in mind. Thank you for joining us today. If you're ready to develop a comprehensive strategy for retirement, don't delay. Reach out by phone or on the web to get started planning for your ideal retirement future. For Rishi Ghosh, Anthony Stryker, and the team at Wheelhouse Advisory Group, I'm Amy Sharp. Have a great week, everyone. We'll see you next time.